All right, so here we have Rich, who's the CEO and publisher of Rise News.
That's true.
And we'll ask him a couple questions, see his leadership standpoint, and that'll give us some insight into how he leads his organization. Okay, so let's start off with the first question. Rich, you can say hi to the viewers.
How are you?
So
It's a nice day. Well, it could be a nice day.
it could be a nicer day.
It's on the edge there.
So Rich, tell me, can you name a person who has had a tremendous impact on you as a leader?
Yeah, I could. I think there's a few folks. I think people that I know. I think my mom has probably had the biggest impact about the way I talk to people and treat people with respect, hopefully, and dignity. She's a tremendous leader in her own right. She's an attorney. She went to law school when she was 40 years old, actually. When my father left, we were kind of in a difficult position as a family, and so she went to law school and raised me and my brother by herself while in school. I mean, it was a very challenging time. And so that experience and sort of watching her do that and experiencing it with her in many ways had a tremendous impact on my life and on the life of my brother. And I think had a positive influence on my leadership skills, whatever those are. So I would say her in terms of people I know, and then obviously there are folks throughout history that you look at that that also have an impact. We don't need to get into it. If you want to, I can answer that as well. But my mom is the one who's had the most direct impact.
That's good. That's good. That's good. Now, you mentioned that your mom, through decisions that she's made and some skills that she's taught you, you said quote unquote leadership skills. So my question to you is, what are the most important decisions you make as a leader in your organization?
So I think that Rise News is very unique because we were talking about this, Steve, off camera. A lot of times in the startup world, you're looked at in a very specific way in terms of what sort of technological edge you have, right? That's sort of what everybody wants to know. In Rise News, we're a media outlet, right? And so our technological edge, hopefully we have some, but I think what we really have is people, and that is our edge and our diversity. And so what my mom taught me, and I don't think she ever sat down and gave me a lesson in it, I think it was just something I learned from her, was that you treat everybody the same, right? Regardless of gender they are, regardless of what race they are, regardless of what religion they are, regardless of whether they have a disability or not, regardless of anything, what socioeconomic status they come from. And so our organization, as a result, is very diverse. I mean, we include people from all over the place, and it's not because we necessarily intend to do it. It's not we don't go out saying, oh, we need X amount of African Americans, we need X amount of Hispanics. That's not what we do. We just include everybody equally, and as a result, if you do that the right way, naturally you're going to get equal representation from various backgrounds and people. So I think that is something that is so important. And what I learned from her and what I've learned from other members of my family, my grandparents, who also had a tremendous impact in my life, my uncle, who had a tremendous impact in my life as well, is that you treat people the same and you give them an opportunity and a chance, and you treat them with respect. And I hope, and that's what our organization, I hope, is going to be based on. It is based on, and as we move forward, will continue to be based on.
That's key.
Well, I wouldn't want to do it if it was. I would rather go work. I would rather go like work at a nonprofit. I'd rather go do something else. If we weren't doing that, if we weren't believing in that message, I would rather not do it. So,
as an organization gets larger, there's this tendency for the quote unquote institution, okay, to dampen or kind of creep and not get so inspired, okay? So how do you keep this from happening? How do you keep this inspiration in your organization as a leader?
So we're a very grassroots organization in terms of the way we operate, and I think that moving forward, I think it'll change a little bit as we continue to grow and develop. But I believe that grassroots element is always going to be so critical. So what we believe is that journalism has been around for a long time, in the United States in particular, and this type of American journalism is great, but it hasn't really caught up to the 21st century. And we've had a lot of innovations in the journalism world, especially technologically and in terms of platforms, but we really haven't had a revolution in terms of what we cover. in terms of how we get those stories. So yet again, this is why diversity is so important, right? Because the type of stories that we come up with can only come from who we have involved. So, you know, I'm a young white guy, okay, born in the suburbs of Miami. I have a very specific, you know, perspective on life, and I have privileges as a result. So it's going to be hard for me to really know what everyone in our age group is interested in. And so the only way we can combat that is by including people and bringing them to the table and giving everybody an opportunity to say, this is what's important, this is what matters. And then you have to listen to that, you know. It doesn't mean that you don't have your own core beliefs or that you don't stick to your guns. But I think what you're saying about as we move forward and as we grow, how do we prevent stagnation? I think we always have to innovate, and I believe we have to listen to who's involved in our team. And again, the way we're structured is that we're kind of the only way we work is if we have a lot of people involved. That's the way it works. And so those people have to be committed, they have to be bought in, and they have to believe in what we're doing. And so far they do. So, and I think we have to continue always remembering that as we move forward 10 years from now.
I mean, it's critical what you just said, because you spoke about 10 years from now, which implies vision. So as a leader, which characteristic do you think every leader should possess to carry that vision?
Well, I feel a little uncomfortable comparing, because I'm sure you're going to interview some much more experienced people who have far better insight than I do about that. What I will say is, from my limited experience as a young leader, somebody who's trying to do something, what I will say is that you have to have vision, and you have to have a purpose. Don't say this to any investors that we may be courting. Money is important, and we want to make money as a company, right? But that's not why I get up and do it. That's not why I started doing it. That's not why I graduated college and started this. It wasn't because, oh, you know, I want to go make a lot of money. If that was the case, I would go to law school. I would go do some other things, right? And we're doing this for a very specific reason, and we want to change the world. That sounds very hokey. But I think, at least in what we're trying to do, you have to have that kind of fire and passion. At least because I don't know how anybody else could do it every day. Because it's kind of scary. I mean, and it's still scary. I mean, we're not out of the woods in terms of how we're doing stuff. And if it was just a matter of how much money are we making, that would not move me as a leader. It would not make me want to do it. Everybody's different, I guess. But for me personally, you have to have a vision and a drive. And why are you doing this? What's the point of this? And for Rise News, the point is we want to revolutionize the way people get news and information. And we want to be the voice of our generation. And we want to change the way the millennials interact with these things and are engaged in our community. That's very exciting to me. Very exciting. It gets me pumped up. And so I think, and to tell you the truth, most young people, leaders, people that run companies or whatever, seem to have that kind of drive and passion. And so, and I think everybody needs that in order for it to work, but I could be wrong.
No, I mean, that's the beauty of this. You mentioned that, you know, you have limited experience. Now,
that's no doubt true.
Okay, so my last question to you is, what advice would you give somebody stepping into a leadership position for the first time, whether or not they know it? Maybe they don't know they're in a leadership position yet.
Sure.
But so what advice would you give somebody stepping into this for the first time?
So I think you have to believe in what you're doing. And I said that before, but that's my advice. There's no, if you're going out if you're going to try to do something new and different, and you're going to try to do something differently that your friends did, right? You're not going to go to be an accountant. You're not going to go to law school. You're not going to follow those kind of predestined paths. Or even in journalism, you're not going to go take that reporting job, right? You're not going to go be a TV reporter. You're not going to do those things that is sort of the expected thing. That's a scary thing to do. The thing to always remember as a young person is, oh, you're young. I mean, it's not the end of the world, right? I mean, you're allowed to make mistakes, and you're allowed to try stuff, and you're allowed to take that leap. And if it fails, it fails. It doesn't mean that you made a mistake. It doesn't mean that it was a wrong thing to do. But it means that you had the courage to do it. And again, not everybody has that luxury. It is a luxury to try that. Not everybody has that. Some people have to go work. Some people have to do that right away. And so if you are lucky enough to have that opportunity, don't waste that opportunity. That I think, at least that's what I think. So maybe I didn't answer your question, Steve, but that's my opinion.
No, there's no right or wrong answer. I just asked you on advice, and you give the advice.
If you're gonna, so for what we do, we recruit hundreds of young people from around the country and some from around the world, and we're telling them this is what we want you to do, and we're trying to buy them into that, right? We're trying to get them to write for us for free. Think about that, right? You have to believe in what you're doing, otherwise they're not going to do it, which is totally fine. And I think one of the reasons why we've been able to do that is because I'm really passionate about it, and we have a vision, and we're building an audience, and so we're successful in terms of that. So again, if you don't fully believe in what you're doing, or if what you're doing doesn't have a huge greater purpose, my argument is, why are we doing that? That's my point. There are other things you could do. And so it's something that I fought with for a while, and I think now, after doing it, we've been doing it for about a year now, I'm finally comfortable enough, like, you know what, I'm gonna call this person up on the phone, and what I'm offering them is a real opportunity. It's a good opportunity for them. It's not a speculative thing. They're actually getting something out of it. But you have to have the confidence to do that. Otherwise, why are they gonna do it?
Right.
So, and I would assume that applies to every industry. I mean, ours is different in some ways because it's kind of more mass, and you need a lot of people. Some companies you need 2 guys in a garage, and ours is not exactly the same. But even with that, how do you get that second guy to sit in the garage with you for 12 hours, right? With no money. So, that's a huge part of it, I think. So,
well, Rich, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
Thank you for talking to our viewers and giving them some advice on young leadership. And we will definitely see you in the future again.
Sure. I hope so.
Yes.
Unless I, fall into a ditch on the way home. I hope not. So
we'll definitely be following Rich in Rise News. And thank you again for your time.
Thanks so much, Steve. It's risenews.net if you're interested in checking it out. If you're interested in writing for us as well, you're more than welcome to. We welcome all to be included with us. Steve, I appreciate this opportunity. I really do.
You're welcome. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.